This night I dedicate to increase, to the second step of every path. This is the move towards abundance, to building in increments, an ordered process. The treasures of the house of Hillel tell of holiness, that it should only increase, ever rise. Thus it was decreed that we light an additional candle to mark each night. For holiness, like light and all luminescent goodness, should always advance, like an ascending staircase, ever more inclined, increased, enhanced. Just as each good act gives forth another, one spark springs forth to a second wick, while a string of candles await. I stand at the stairway from my depths, ready to rise, to explore. Having found my foundation in the darkness, I move with upward momentum, the second night, the second step, the strength to start. Another project. Well, strength to start another project, of course, naturally. Welcome, everyone, to Vlognukkah Night 2. Chag Sameach to everyone. Happy holidays. It is Hanukkah Night 2, and I am Scott Strong Wallace, and this is GreatScott Knitting Vlognukkah 2021. Welcome. If you saw last night, thank you for tuning in, and if you are back again for another interesting jaunt, welcome. And if this is your first time, welcome to you all as well. So last night's meditation was about embracing the mystery of of what we don't know, of our dark inner ignorance, one could say. And tonight is about, and then last night was sort of about embracing that unknown aspect of ourselves. And night 2 is about taking that second step. And when I started thinking about that second step, that next rung of the ladder as you crawl out of the darkness, like the first thing that came to mind is, sometimes the first step in a process of doing something is hard. And if you get that first step wrong, the second step can sometimes be harder. Like my first thought is the first step, of a long journey begins with the first step. Well, what if that first step is onto a banana peel? Then the second step might be even harder. We often don't think about the second step of the journey. That continual momentum. Sometimes it's hard to get that going. It's hard to get that moving. And so it may not be till the third step or the fourth step that you get a rhythm going, and you can move forward more vigorously. But yeah, it's a journey from the darkness, from ignorance to knowledge, from the darkness to light. And sometimes we have to give as much energy to that second step as we gave to the first. So, hey, did you go take a listen to any of those tunes that I talked about yesterday? I hope you enjoyed them if you did. If you didn't, they're in yesterday's show notes. Go take a listen to those. I'm going to have a few more recommendations tonight for some listening. Tonight, I'm going to feature a couple of Hanukkah tunes that get me in the spirit and speak to me about not just the season at large, but Hanukkah in general, or in specific. The first one that always gives me that special Hanukkah feeling is Miracle by Matisyahu. Matisyahu is a I think he's an American Israeli. Um, he was a relatively Orthodox Jewish musician, performing mostly in the reggae style. That recently he has um, loosened up a little bit in his practice of orthodoxy, um, but still very, very Jewish. Anyway, that aside, his music is really, really quite amazing. He's a really a great musician, great singer, great songwriter. Um, and this song, "Miracle," is about, of course, the miracle of the lights, and how this time is a miraculous time for us to embrace the light and embrace the specialness of the season. So that will be my first recommendation. Go take a listen to Matisyahu's "Miracle." Um, and then my second recommendation will be some of the parody songs by a group called the Maccabeats. The Maccabeats are a group of gentlemen who went to, I believe it's the New York Yeshiva University. They got together and to do some singing, and they did a parody song that became a huge internet hit a few years back. And so I will link to that in the show notes. It, of course, it's very tongue in cheek. It's very fun. It's very festive. But it pretty much put them on the map to do all sorts of parody songs for many of the different Jewish holidays. Hanukkah being, of course, the chief amongst those. So I'll share those in the show notes down below. The videos and the music to those videos. So go take a listen to those, enjoy those. Share those with your friends because they are really quite fun. And so then you can say, hey, I know of some Hanukkah songs that are not dreidel, 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 which is a fine Hanukkah song, but there are better. And one of the things I wanted to mention yesterday was the reason I still adhere and listen to the traditional Christmas choral music, because that's what this puts me in the mood for this season, is that there is this long tradition of choral music, of great, amazing music that comes out of this season in the Christian tradition. There's not a lot of great choral tradition for Hanukkah. Of course, number one is Hanukkah is a minor holiday in the Jewish calendar of holidays. In fact, it's not even a Torah holiday. God didn't say celebrate Hanukkah. This is a rabbinic holiday. So it's a great holiday, but it's not a big one. It's not a monumentally important holiday. It has its importance due to the fact of many Jews living in and amongst Christians, and then there's that pressure to assimilate into the Christian culture to some extent. And so Hanukkah has become a gift-giving time, which traditionally it is not. It is simply a time to light the Hanukkah, which is the Hanukkah menorah, to eat fried foods, to, again, recognize and commemorate the miracle of the oil, and to spend time with family. That's really all this holiday is about. Gift-giving came about as a due to its calendar proximity to Christmas. So there you go. Do we give gifts on all the 8 nights? No, most Jewish families do not. And if they do, they're going to be small, inconsequential gifts, maybe socks or underwear or a candy bar or things like that. Most families, what they'll do is they will institute a different activity for each night of Hanukkah, like family game night, or a night where they volunteer and go do something in the to volunteer to help their community. Other nights might be movie night, things like that, things that they do together as a family. So that is, that whole Hanukkah thing, that whole music thing for me. There's just not a lot of great Jewish choral music, regardless of the season. So I still use the sounds of the holiday music that comes to us from primarily the Christian traditions to inform my festivities for the season. So yeah, that's my so those are my music recommendations. Please do go check those out. So that we do not forget, this is not just about Judaism on this podcast. This is about knitting and the fiber world. So I finished my second orbit shawl earlier today and was able to get it blocked. And so here it is, looking really quite lovely. I love the pooling and flashing that is going on between the forest green and the teal. It's really quite nice. So yeah, I think this is going to make a really lovely gift for the co-worker that this was made for. So yeah, again, the Orbit Shawl by Janina Kallio, I believe is correct. And this is my yarn. This is a DK weight yarn, 100% superwash merino. So this is my basic merino DK base. And the colorway I am calling Repair the World. In Hebrew, that would be called Tikkun Olam. The idea that we are here to finish, in a sense, creation, to do our part to repair the world in whatever way we can, especially those areas where we as the human race has broken the world. So that's that colorway. I think it having those foresty colors and those teal colors, which makes one think about trees and water. What better way to repair the world than through those ideas of creating trees and growing more trees and having clean water. Wow, I'm really deep today. That's kind of crazy. So that's my knitting. So the next thing that comes on probably shortly after I get done will be this colorway back on the Orbit Shawl. I can't wait to see how this knits up. Let me just let me pop this open so you can see how this is. Yes. So we've got that fiery orange color glowing out into the darkness of the deep purple. So yeah, this I can't wait to see how this knits up and plays. That's going to be so much fun. So I will be probably caking this up and casting it on as this episode uploads. So tomorrow you will probably see some progress on orbit number 3. So my name for this one, I think, is and so here's what it's going to be, at least for now. It's going to be Natural Leader, or the leader in the leader inside of us, leadership or something around leadership, something about the torch of leadership or something like, I don't know. I clearly don't have a name for it. Something about leadership. But it also makes me think of a torch, a flame. I don't know. Ideas? Pop those in the show notes or in the comments. I would love to see your ideas. So that's my knitty world for the past 24 hours. So something coming off, something going back on. So that's in that. Oh, actually, one other thing in the knitty world. So, my husband this afternoon, before he headed off to do some things that he's doing for the holidays, my husband has created a holiday village, and maybe I'll pop a picture of the holiday village in here so you can see what I'm talking about. He's been collecting these these little ceramic holiday village houses and buildings for years. And this year he offered to display them at our local botanical garden called Botanica, the Wichita Gardens. And every year Botanica has what they call illuminations. They decorate the botanical garden in holiday lights. And he offered to display his holiday village at Botanica. Botanica is actually a very big thing. It's like one of the biggest things for the holidays in Wichita, Kansas. And it's really very cool. So he's been volunteering at Botanica, basically to watch over his village. But so that's what he's been doing in the evenings. So before he headed off to work, finally get back to the point of the story. So before he headed off to Botanica, he was doing some cyber shopping for Cyber Monday. He didn't want to be left out. And so we were like, oh, what are some things that we need? And it's like, we need some printer ink. And so we got some of that. We need some, tape for our tape dispensers because, the holidays and we kind of are running out. So we ordered some of that. We ordered some other things here and there. And he's like, well, okay, anything else that you want? And he's like, are there any knitting needles you want? And I was like, well, I've been looking at a set of, Chow red lace knitting, the interchangeable knitting set. And so he looked it up, and of course the first thing that popped up were the full sets, which are like $187. And he's like, Jesus. I was like, that's not what I'm looking at. That's not what I've been looking at to get myself eventually. I said I want the small set because I really don't use larger needles. The small set starts at a US 2 and goes up to a US 8, which would be like it's something like a 3.25 millimeter up to a 5 millimeter. And it's like that's really the range that I use on a regular basis. So I don't really need the other ones at this point. And those were like $90 or something like that. I don't remember. So he just like pops them into the cart, and I was like, you don't have to do that. It's like, he's like, He's like, happy Hanukkah. So I have another gift coming for Hanukkah, which is a set of Chow red lace. I will show those off as soon as they get here. I believe they will be here before the end of Hanukkah, so I will share those when those show up. What else? That's it. That's pretty much the show notes for today, or the show for the day. So for those of you who have given me comments for night one, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I love having continuing the conversation with you guys in that fashion. So keep those comments coming. Let me know how your holiday season is going. Advent is upon us for those in the Christian faith. So, I know that it entails a lot of preparation. And I know there are also many of you who are excited to start busting into your Advent calendars, that you have ordered all of this lovely yarn. And for those of you who didn't bust into it as soon as it came into your homes, I know you're looking forward to opening those up. I have never done an Advent calendar. I've never purchased one for myself. They're not a small investment, so that's one reason I haven't done it. I'm beginning to realize that with my new job, I probably could invest in one on an annual basis, but I did not this year. So I will be looking towards that concept for 2022 and the holiday season therein. So if I don't, of course, dye one up for myself. But then again, I also am not a big, or have not at this point, embraced the whole usage of mini skeins of yarn. So that's another thing. I have a lot of mini skeins that in my stash because of swatching different colors, and so I need to find a use for those little skeins of yarn that I have dyed up that are really just kind of sitting around with nothing to do. I know there's a lot of little patterns out there, and I'm going to embrace one of those and throw some together probably sometime in this next year. Let's see, another thing that I've said that I was going to do in this next year was some double knitting. Duke of Nico, who I am we are collaborating on the Knittergy podcast. I collaborate with him on the Knittergy podcast. He is a big double knitting aficionado and master. So he is convincing me to play around with the double knitting world. So you'll probably see some of that coming up in this next year due to his prodding. I've done a project in the past, which I really did enjoy and actually turned out really quite nicely, but I never followed it up with any additional double knitting work. So maybe this next year will be a point to brush off some of that. So, well, okay, that's really all I have for tonight. I hope you are having a lovely week, and I hope you are having a lovely holiday season. We will come back tomorrow with night 3, but until then, may you have peace in your home and the fullness of joy for all who dwell there. Bye.